Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're giving you the first part of our Week 17 fantasy football starts and sits. We're here to help you make all the right decisions on who should be in your lineup, who needs to sit on your bench, and who's going to break your heart if you make the wrong decision. Let's start this fantasy football podcast right now.
Hit that drop. Hey everyone, I am Justin, that is Kyle, and this is the Fantasy Football Upside. Thanks for dropping by our Fantasy Football podcast and YouTube channel. We appreciate it. And today we are giving you our final week, the first part of our Start Sit questions for Week 17 for the first half of Sunday games. So definitely want to check out our waiver wire episode as well as our first annual award show and our top start streamers and phase episode from yesterday by clicking where Kyle's pointing. Also, all of them from this week are in the description below. Yep. Kyle, what you got before we get right into it, sir?
All right. Make sure you click that subscribe button as well as the bell. That way you're notified every time we upload the podcast. You'll be notified when we start uploading the podcast again. We're going to take a little bit of a hiatus, probably sit out the NFL playoffs, but we'll get back going at some point before the NFL draft. We'll talk about the draft, talk about NFL stuff, start getting our rankings done too early, and we'll probably throw a couple mock drafts. Oh yeah, get excited. Mock draft season, right?
Thank you.
It's, one of the longest seasons. Yeah. And we are the Upside Podcast. We're the best one that there is, the Fantasy Football Upside Podcast. So make sure you hit that subscribe button as well as that bell. And if you have any questions about starts or sits, people to pick up, people to drop, make sure you hit us up down below or on Twitter. You can always ask us questions because we're always asking. Do you need assistance? And that's about it. Let's dive in head first into the shallow end and let's get through these matchups, Justin. We got a lot because there was no Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. None of that stuff. Yeah.
It's all Sunday, I believe, isn't it?
Tuesday through Saturday, no football games in the NFL. Yeah. Imagine that, right? Who'd have thought that we'd actually have to be thinking of that? But 2020's done weird things. Let's start it off. Here we go. We've got Atlanta, the Atlanta Falcons going against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Right off the top, Atlanta, Matt Ryan. It's an okay start this week, actually. While there may be players sitting out across the league, you're looking for some starts. This might be a decent one, actually. It's not a terrible matchup. Whereas with the running backs, it is a bad matchup. This is the best run defense in the league, so avoid the running backs. I don't care who's playing. Todd Gurley, Brian Hill, Ito Smith is out, so I'd avoid it. Look, Julio Jones, there's really no reason for him to play this week, so I can't imagine that.
I don't think he's going to play.
Calvin Ridley is a start for me, but that's because Calvin is a man, and he is going to show you what his 40 looks like. The dude's fast. The dude makes some just disgusting cuts and moves. I mean, his route running is amazing. You called it, man. You called it before the season started. You said this dude's going to show up, and nobody wanted to believe it. Part of the reason that he's had the opportunity is because we thought there's the risk that Julio doesn't complete the season. Guess what? Julio didn't do, guys. Complete the season. Russell Gage, I'd say it's a flex if you kind of have to, but I'd avoid it otherwise. And then Hayden Hurst, he really has not produced other than this last week without Julio on the field. So I'm fading Hayden Hurst right now. Hayden. There you go. Didn't even do that. Who do you have?
Should write that one down.
Yeah, right. Here we go.
Write that down.
All right. Who do you have for the Buccaneers?
So my start of the week at quarterback is Tom Brady. So I'm definitely going to start him up in this matchup. And this is what I said yesterday is hashtag Twami's been the Falcons daddy ever since Super Bowl 51. I wanted to just say it again because it's accurate. We're not big fans of Mr. Immunity pills. But
I have a question though. If he's their daddy, does that mean that he kisses all of them on the mouth?
Oh God.
Yeah, I'm gonna get it wrong early here, guys. I'm gonna get real wrong real quick. But I'm not the one doing that to my kids.
Yeah. Well, alrighty, moving on.
His own head
moving
coach.
on. Alrighty. So we talked about hashtag Twami. We talked about the inappropriateness of the hashtag Twami. All right. So Ronald Jones, he's been activated off the COVID list. The question is, how much work is he going to get after the recovery from the broken finger and I think he had a surgery on that broken finger. But it sounded like before he hit that COVID list, he may have actually played within the week of that surgery. So I think he is a potential for a flex because they probably want to get him back in the offense to get him going again going into the playoffs. But Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, I believe their starts. I think Evans is going to be a top 5 play, and Godwin's going to finish at least as a wide receiver 2. AB, low floor wide receiver 3 or flex. His target's been kind of going up and down throughout this season since he's joined the Bucs, I should say. And then Rob Gronkowski, man, he's going to finish as a top 7 tight end all season. And actually, since week 6, he's the number 3 tight end right now.
That doesn't really take a whole lot. I mean, other than Kelsey, it doesn't take a whole lot. Like Waller is going to be tight end 2, and he's like 90 points in standard scoring behind Travis Kelsey. And then third place is like 140 back of Travis Kelsey. It's some sick number. So
you may have been able to get Gronk towards the end of the draft, though, or some people probably didn't even draft him, of course, because he wasn't even. So I don't know. But all right, next up we have the Dallas Cowboys against the New York Giants. You're going to tell me who to start and who to sit for the Cowboys.
Yeah, I'm sitting Andy Dalton. Imagine that. I mean, he was a top 5 play this last week, right? But that was against terrible defense. This defense to fantasy QBs are allowing 28th in fantasy points. So 5th least amount of fantasy points. Not a good matchup. It didn't really stop Dalton last week. It wasn't the greatest matchup for him, but it didn't stop him. Ezekiel Elliott, he's running better. He was running better than this last week. It's a decent matchup that could result in a good output. So I would imagine that Elliott's a play this week. There's a weird outside chance that the Cowboys end up in the playoffs. Oh. So if they're going to get there, it's weird. I've got Pollard as a flex play. I know that he's been a little bit banged up, so keep an eye on what's going on with that. And I don't know which wide receiver to start, so I'm just going to say start them all. They were all starts this last week, and that's Cooper, Gallup, and Lamb. You can start those guys. Other than that, I'm not starting anybody.
I mentioned recently how since whenever Andy Dalton's under center, for the wide receivers, all the targets are all within about 3 or 4 of each other. So it's not really a huge, he's honing in on one certain guy. It's just kind of game to game. So I get what you're saying with the wide receivers. You're going to have to start every single one. You're not going to have more than one on your team, of course. So
is there anybody worth starting over there on the Giants?
I mean, I have Daniel Jones as a 2 QB or super flex if you're still in that league and you're still playing. So Wayne Gallman would just be a desperate flex play, and that's if there's a lot of people that you've had on your team that are sitting right now. Sterling Shepard is another desperate wide receiver 3, and Evan Ingram. It's the tight end of 2020. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All the talent and no production. Just keep an eye on his practice participation. I believe he was out earlier this week, but I would still say he's a somewhat okay start if you have to, because it is going against the Dallas Cowboys defense.
Sure.
So.
And then next is our matchup of the day. That is the worst. That is the New York Jets, who are the worst against the New England Patriots,
who are
also this year now the worst. Guys, shouldn't smash. Just keep it on loop here because guys, that's it. I have no starts for the Jets. There's literally like my note is nope, not starting any of them. That's
you
it.
Want to hear mine for the Patriots?
Yep.
This offense is terrible. #analysis.
Yeah. I mean, they're going to start Stidham, I think. That's it.
I mean, they haven't announced that yet. I mean, it'd be smart for them to try it. I mean, they've already seen a little bit out of him, but maybe actually give him a start and see. But I mean, Damian Harris would be one that I would consider if he was actually healthy enough, but I don't think he's going to play either.
I mean, he was a scratch last minute last week. For week 16.
It's not a good sign.
Yeah, I mean, I lost James Robinson and I can't remember who else. I had a wide receiver, somebody, Devontae Parker. I had a few guys go down, and he was the surprise one that went down. Yeah. And he was actually somebody I was considering putting into my lineup, like reworking it so that I could put him in my flex potentially. Thank goodness I didn't do that. Man, that would have been bad.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on here. Don't start anybody in that game. It's absolute trash. Minnesota Vikings at the Detroit Lions. We talked about this a little bit in our Starts, Streamers, and Fades episode. Streaming QB is Kirk Cousins. He's startable. He's going against the Lions, so you could pick him up and put him out there and play him and hope for something. And part of that has to do with the fact that we have no idea who's going to be the running back for them. I mean, there's really There's nobody that I would pick up and put in there, even though Detroit's, you can run on them. Dalvin Cook, he's going to be out. His father passed away. Alexander Madison, he may be ready to go. He's in the concussion protocol. He might clear it in time.
Amir Abdullah has been flashed here or there, but I mean, he's showing the propensity to put the ball on the floor ever since, you know what I mean?
Ever since
I
he
say
was
floor,
drafted
ground,
by the Lions.
Yeah.
It's a floor. It's indoor. Either one of those stadiums, it's indoor. So it could be the
Thank you
floor.
for that, Kyle. I appreciate it.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that means that you fire up Adam Thielen. That means you fire up Justin Jefferson. It also means that you fire up Irv Smith. It's actually a really decent start for Irv Smith because this is not a good defense against the tight end. Kyle Rudolph has already been declared out. And Kirk Cousins is going to have to throw it a whole lot. And heaven knows that he's not very accurate once it gets about 10 yards down the field.
And that's why he made our streamer of the week at tight end. Definitely check that out down below, guys. Check it out.
Yep. All right. So who do you have for the Lions? Is there anybody worth starting over there?
I mean, this is an interesting one, Kyle, because this could be the end of the Matthew Stafford era in Detroit right now. I mean, he shouldn't play right now. He's got just a multitude of ailments going on. That twisted ankle looked really bad. It's almost like one of those ones where you try not to twist an ankle, and that's when you twist an ankle. That's what it looked like. Yeah. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. So, and I mean, if they lose, they're just going to help their draft pick, you know, where they're going to be at next year. So you can get Captain Caveman and, you know, get rid of all the players that he had under his, you know, tutelage. But other than that,
if you want to call it that, I mean, he wasn't teaching anybody anything.
That's true. That's true. No, it's, you know, teaching them how to wear shorts in the dead of winter outside look like a hard, what.
Yeah. So quick question for you. Where does Matthew Stafford end up? I don't think he stays with the Lions. I think he's gone. Where does he end up? I have an idea. I have a guess that I think would be perfect. And there's a guy I think he's on a 1-year deal. He's way down there in the south of Florida.
He's not on a 1-year deal.
Not on a 1-year deal?
Tommy's
Is it a
not on a
2-year
1-year deal. Yeah.
Stafford would be perfect for that team.
That would be. Just slinging that rock,
Matthew
man.
Stafford throwing that
just
to Evans.
Slinging that rock.
Evans and Godwin and Rojo. Get a little Scotty Miller going.
What about the Patriots?
Yeah. I don't know what's going to happen with that, but
you know what I mean? Like,
I don't know, man.
He would look pretty good. I mean, well, that's the thing though.
They don't have anybody to throw to.
That's true. Josh McDaniels all about dink and dunk, and that's just mainly because they don't have anybody to throw to. So I don't know. I wouldn't mind seeing him in the horseshoe next year. I wouldn't be opposed to that.
That would be good.
I mean, the guy's played with the Detroit Lions for his whole career, so he gets a bad stigma. The dude can ball. I mean, if he's got weapons and an offensive line to help him out, I mean, the guy can throw it.
If they go draft like a true wide receiver 1, somebody who's like an alpha, get him a Megatron, get him somebody like that. That'd be awesome.
Possibly.
So, all right.
Going back to the Detroit Lions, I am going to start DeAndre Swift because the guy's just talented as can be, even with them stacking the box potentially, especially if Stafford sits and Chase Daniels at the helm. I think he'd still get you running back 2 numbers. And TJ Hawkinson, I mean, you have to start him because of that talent, but he's been hit really hard with the up and down QB play of, is it Stafford? Is it, Chase Daniels? So, but you're still going to start him just because you're in this tight end world of 2020, man.
Yeah.
All right. Up next, we got the Pittsburgh Steelers going against the Cleveland Browns. Sure. Steelers start sits. What you got? I'm
starting Ben Roethlisberger. I know it's a good matchup, so I guess you kind of have to start him. But I'm also going to start James Conner. It's actually not the greatest matchup, but it's not terrible. He should be able to get some work out of this one, so I think it's okay. Anthony McFarland, you got some injury issues going there. The wide receivers have really good matchups, and this is why I think that Ben Roethlisberger is a start. I think you can start all 3 of the wide receivers that are worth starting here. It's Juju Smith-Schuster, Deontay Johnson, and Chase Claypool. I think you throw all of them out there. Chase Claypool's kind of fallen by the wayside a little bit as Juju's star has risen somewhat. Deontay Johnson, what is he? He's like the second most targeted wide receiver in the league or something right now, which is crazy considering what Keenan Allen was doing early in the year, like 23 plus targets in games and stuff, right? But he also he leads the league in drops. So there is that. Eric Ebron, I think, is also a start. It's a good matchup. This is one of those ones where I am a bit concerned that there are too many potential ways for this offense to be effective.
Yeah.
And then as a result, you might pick wrong. You might just end up with a guy who drew the short stick and you're screwed over as a result. So be careful in this one. Really evaluate what you're doing here and stick to the guys who you know to kind of be the studs and go on intuition a little bit. Yeah. What do you have for the Browns?
Well, this is another unique one because of what's been hit with the Browns when it comes to the COVID, people going on this COVID list and everything. But at quarterback, Baker Mayfield would be a 2 QB or super flex only, in my opinion. And then at running back, Nick Chubb, I mean, he had a disappointing game last week when it comes to yardage and everything like that. But what do you expect whenever they're going to be stacking the box and everything? But the guy is still a stud. This is one thing that I found kind of curious whenever I was doing some research is he actually ran more receiving routes than Kareem Hunt did last week. So you might be looking at a guy that's becoming more and more immune to game scripts.
Maybe that's why they lost.
Yeah, maybe that could be true.
I mean,
but
they need to win this week or they're not in the playoffs. They're going to miss out.
I mean, and then Kareem Hunt, like, I would just say he's a flex because he doesn't have the greatest of floors, in my opinion, because, there'll be games where he'll get out there right away and score a couple touchdowns for you in the first half, or he doesn't get any work until the fourth quarter. So it's you're going to be sitting at the, front of your seat here, just waiting, biting your fingernails, seeing if he's going to get anything. And then that's similar with the wide receivers. And this is the biggest thing with Cleveland Browns is the COVID list. Is Jarvis Landry, Rashard Higgins, are they going to play? It's not an easy matchup going against the Steelers, but I would still say Jarvis, if he starts, you're probably going to look at a value of a wide receiver 3 or flex, and Rashard Higgins is probably about the same. I know we've both said quite a bit of good things about Rashard Higgins, and then Austin Hooper, you want to keep that in your back pocket if those guys are out still. I mean, how about another 15 target game out of Austin Hooper, and that gets you a tight end 1.
Yep. All right, let's move on here. We've got the Baltimore Ravens at the Cincinnati Bengals. The Ravens, we've got Lamar Jackson. He's a start. The matchup is good, mostly because of the rushing opportunities. Cincinnati's pretty bad against the running game. They are 10th in fantasy points allowed to the running back. And so that plays into Lamar Jackson's game a little bit. He's pretty good there. J.K. Dobbins, there's an injury issue. So if you're thinking of starting him, keep an eye on what's going on there. I think he had a chest injury. It did not look all that great. So Gus Edwards could end up being the play here. Mark Ingram's just not been getting anything, and Edwards actually has run pretty dominantly. So if Dobbins is out, I say you fire up Gus Edwards and hope for the best there. You could end up with a decent running back out of that for the week. Marquise Brown, I think it's a decent matchup. He's been better lately. Lamar Jackson's been hitting a little bit better on his accuracy, and as a result, Marquise Brown's been doing better. Willie Snead, there's injury issues, so watch out. And then Mark Andrews, we have as a start. Why? Because they're allowing 6 most fantasy points to the tight end this year. So fire him up.
Yeah.
You can get out of it. There you go.
I don't have too much for the Bengals. Shocker, I know.
Yeah.
Gio Bernard is a decent flex. I mean, he's played pretty well down the stretch here, filling in for Joe Mixon. So, yes, Joe Mixon's finally been ruled out. They never put him on IR, by the way.
Yeah, no, I know that.
I know. Stupid.
It was same injury. It was the same injury that Cam Newton had that ran him out of town in Carolina, and he kept re-injuring it. And it's because it's this midfoot sprain, I think is what it is, where if it's mild, it's okay to try to come back from. If it's moderate, you probably need to actually have pins put in, and there is no advancement of recovery time. So it just wasn't. They should have ruled him out, put him on IR 3 weeks or whatever, and then just held him out there for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. When it comes to the wide receivers, this is going to be another tough one because both Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins are nursing injuries. Actually, Tyler Boyd's on the concussion protocol, and T. Higgins has been hampered by a hamstring injury, even though you wouldn't see that after 90-plus yards and a touchdown last week, but he's missing time in practice. So I'm actually going to get kind of crazy here and say that A.J. Green might be a decent start for you because this might be his last game in Cincy. He's playing for his next contract, and with Boyd and Higgins possibly missing a little bit of time during the game, this could be a pretty good one for you.
Yeah.
You know, they're going to have to throw it to somebody, so might as well be, Mr. Cincinnati Bengal for one last hurrah.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. We've got Miami Dolphins at the Buffalo Bills. Miami, we've got Ryan Fitzpatrick. He might get some action on this. I don't know what's going to happen there. He's a super flex or 2 QB viable play because he might end up on the field somehow. Tua is a super flex and 2 QB play only. He might get benched. He might not start. He might play the whole game. I don't know what's going to happen there. I would avoid this.
Did you hear what Flores said at all this week so far?
He said that he's going back to Tua, didn't he?
No,
and he likes the idea of being able to change them up and have a closer.
Basically bringing in his closer is what he was saying. And that's just, that sounds great for team chemistry and, getting continuity on the offense.
But you don't bring in the closer when you're down, right? And they had to bring in the closer when they were down. So it just shows that he's never watched baseball. Because he brought in the closer to throw a 44-yard bomb while getting his neck ripped in half, and just obliterating the hopes and dreams of John Gruden, which was glorious. I loved it. I love Ryan Fitzpatrick. Always have. Came into the league same year that Aaron Rodgers did, actually. So he's been around for a while. He's a journeyman. He's gotten it done in every stop. Dude just really never gotten any respect about it. It's like he's always the guy who somebody's going to replace.
Yep.
They're always trying to find a way to replace him. And he goes out and he kills it. I remember when the Jets actually were good, they had Ryan Fitzpatrick at QB. The last time they were good. Myles Gaskin, it's a decent matchup. I'd start him. I think that's okay. Devontae Parker is an injury concern. It's also a bad matchup. And they allow the third least points to the fantasy points to the wide receiver. So I would avoid that actually, even if he is able to go. Jakeem Grant has already been ruled out for the week. And then Mike Gesicki, he's a start actually. This is the same concept that we were talking about before, that we've talked about several times with regard to how you exploit the defense of the Bears. And that is that there's one aspect that you can hit. And so it makes it really, really obvious who you can play. And that's going to be Gesicki. The defense here of Buffalo allows the 8th most fantasy points to the tight end. So he's a definite play. He could have a good day here. He's been up and down all year. This might be one of those up games for you. So what do you have on Buffalo?
For a team that's, been super hot lately, there's not a whole lot of guys that are fantasy relevant, in my opinion. It's a two-headed monster here, the Buffalo Bills. It's Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. For Josh Allen, it's a tough matchup, but they played in week 2, and he was the number 3 overall quarterback. Yeah. And for Stephon Diggs, it was another tough matchup, and he was the number 2 wide receiver in week 2 matchup. So it's one of those things where that's all I really would say to start, because the running backs, they're splitting the time. Wide receivers, there's just not much else. Like Cole Beasley might miss this game, might rest him up before the playoffs. So I just have Josh Allen.
John Brown's healthy. John Brown's healthy, which just eliminates Gabriel Davis's value.
Well, I don't think he's actually back yet. Like John,
I don't know.
It's one of those things where whenever he gets on the field, he's out. You know what I mean? So it's and Gabe Davis has just been so hit or miss, so boom or bust. Like he might score you 100 yards and a touchdown, or he might just get one catch for 5 yards. So it's a lot of hit or miss, and we don't want to say that for you in this championship week. But
no.
All right, what we got next? So we got Seattle Seahawks going against the San Francisco 49ers. What do you got on the Seahawks?
All right, on the Seahawks, I think you could start Russell Wilson, but buyers beware there. There's really no good matchups for the offense on this side. And it seems to me like this is actually a game that Seattle's going to lose. It's good for the Packers. I'm fine with that. But I think that this is a tough one. If you're looking at it from a fantasy perspective, I have concerns. Russell Wilson has not been good during the second half of the season. And so this is another one of those games where he could run into the wall and not be able to help you a whole lot. Chris Carson, I think, is a start, but again, he's not going to find a whole lot of running room. And part of that is because the passing game's not really been effective for Seattle.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this already. Tyler Lockett is one of our fades this week. And if I had him, I would really start trying to find a different way to go. I would be looking for somebody else, maybe like an Nelson Aguilar or somebody like that, who has just smashed it against really tough spots all year long. Look, Lockett has not been playable in over a month. Not just like, oh, maybe I'll throw him in my flex and see what happens. He hasn't been playable. He has not finished better than wide receiver 51 since week 11.
That doesn't seem good.
No, that's not good at all. Well, guess what? DK Metcalf, he's only finished better than wide receiver 43 2 times since week 12. So the downfall of Russell Wilson has really led to the elimination of value of these two wide receivers. I would run screaming from this game if I had any of these guys still in my lineup. I think that you run a real risk with any of the Seattle offensive players. I think you run a real risk of getting just an absolute dud and killing your chances at notching a win.
Yeah.
What do you have for San Francisco?
For San Francisco, I have a sneaky little 2 QB or super flex start, and that's CJ Beathard. I mean, he actually put up quite a few touchdowns last week, so it's like
chucks it deep. Chucks it deep,
but got a few issues when it comes to chucking it deep on another player. But Jeff Wilson Jr. for running back, dude's a stud. I mean, I was saying it on Twitter. People were asking questions, Jeff Wilson or this guy, Jeff Wilson or this guy. I just say Jeff Wilson, copy, paste. I mean, this guy could be in running back 1 territory just this week right now because there's not a whole lot else in that running back room that's made it this far. But the guy I was talking about that, Beathard can't really chuck it deep. Brandon Ayuk has already been ruled out. Deebo Samuel's been out for the last few weeks. I don't think he's going to play. But there's a drop for me coming up here. George Kittle, welcome back, stud.
Yeah.
Thank you. Everybody, if you've watched any of our stuff, you know my infatuation for George Kittle. So thank you. Thank you for making NFL even more fun to watch, George Kittle.
Yep.
That's all I got, man.
Start him. Yep. All right, guys, that's going to do it for the first half of our start sits matchup breakdowns. Hopefully this is helpful for you in figuring out how you're going to set your lineup for a very complicated week 17 championship. Not only is it a COVID year, but it is also a difficult week to have your championship in for various reasons, especially this year. So hopefully we're able to help you out. If you got any questions, feel free to go drop a comment down below. We'll try to get that answered before game time starts on Sunday. There are no games on Saturday this week, so hopefully we're able to help you out. And make sure you hit that subscribe button as well as the bell. That way you're notified every time we upload the podcast. You'll find out when we're going to start uploading stuff. We'll probably talk about free agency and what it means for fantasy football. We'll talk about the draft, and then we'll start getting into our rankings way too early. We'll start talking about our mock drafts. We'll do a mock draft right off the top. And we'll have a lot of fun with it. That's what we try to do during the off season, is just have a lot more fun. We're a little bit more workmen during the season, trying to get through things for you so that we can help you out. But during the off season, we like to have fun. Yep. I will make sure that we have the waiver wire episode on the screen, as well as the top starter streamers and fades for this week. Hey, thanks for being a fan of the upside. We'll see you again tomorrow when we upload the second half. Bye.
See ya.